Belizean Theater, An Avenue to Literature by Melissa Espat. Belizean literature classrooms often rely on textbooks and close reading. This approach has been working, but it also leaves many students cold, especially those who struggle with abstract texts or who rarely see their voices reflected in foreign anthologies. Peer-reviewed literature showcases on why many 18 to 25-year-olds don't prioritize literary reading, and it lines up with what we're seeing in Belize. Four main points that the studies have showed are: one, time pressure and screens crowd out books. Large, recent analysis from Bone et al. 2025 shows steep declines in reading for pleasure among older teens and young adults, with researchers pointing to competition from digital media and changing leisure habits. Wilkinson et al. 2020, in their study, perceived low payoff, too effortful, uncool, or not encouraged. Adolescent young adult studies report that many opt out of books because reading feels labor intensive, isn't socially reinforced, can be costly, and doesn't confer immediate social capital, especially compared with always on social platforms. Hackemulder and Manjan in 2024 experimental work finds that preferences for short screen-based reading correlates with less engagement in sustained literary reading, suggesting the format itself nudges attention away from deep reading unless educators build bridges. Boston University, they say that engagement rises when choice, relevance, and social reading are present. Classrooms that center students' choice, contemporary themes, and peer talk big gains in motivation and volume, even among previously disengaged readers, implying the barrier is how literature is offered, not just kids these days. In Belize, staging local works with familiar accents through school based theater turns literature into a social, meaningful event, directly addressing awareness and access issues and boosting understanding and willingness to engage. Therefore, our argument is theater offers another path. By putting Belizean stories on their feet with familiar accents, rhythms, and settings, performances can turn print into experience and analysis into action. The question is not merely whether theater is enjoyable, but whether it helps students learn literature and whether it is feasible for Belizean schools to adopt at scale. So, what is the connection to theater? The same factors that depress literary reading, time scarcity, low perceived playoffs, solitary formats, are precisely what theaters can flip. It's social, embodied, time bounded, and locally meaningful. Build choice, social proof, and Belizean voice into the design, and you're aligning with the strongest levers the research identifies for rekindling engagement. To probe that, we administered a short survey of 18 to 25-year-olds. The responses are unambiguous. Students perceive theater as an effective way to understanding literature. They want more local text on stage, and crucially, the primary obstacles are logistical: awareness, timing, transport, not a lack of interest. And in a country where the National Theatre is centralized in Belize City, these findings point to a practical blueprint. Take theaters to schools. Start with Belizean texts and remove avoidable access barriers. We had three findings. Key finding number one: theater boosts learning. Students see theater as a powerful learning tool, not just entertainment, because performing or watching plays especially Belizean accents and settings, make literature clearer and more relevant, while also building transferable skills like confidence, public speaking, teamwork, and critical thinking. Key finding number 2: skills students value. Two further items reinforce the learning case. First, 67.7% agreed that theater could help them perform better in literature classes. Second, 61.3% believed that participating in theater would increase their public speaking confidence. In short, students are telling us that performance is not a distraction from literature, it is a vehicle for mastering it. And so, local stories matter, and there is room to broaden the Belizean canon. Belizean works already anchor students' reading experiences, but familiarity is uneven. On a familiarity matrix, Z. Edgell and Colville Young scored 38.7% as very or somewhat familiar, Evan X. Hyde 25.8%, Zoila Ellis 16.1%, and Ivory Kelly 12.9% trailed. Students also reported the highest exposure to Z. Edgell's Beka. The upshot is clear. Staging scenes and monologues from Beka is a logically starting point, but there is ample space to elevate short stories, poems, and essays by Ellis and Kelly, and to adapt excerpts from not only Hyde, but from other Belizean writers, so that more Belizean voices become part of the performed curriculum. The demand is there, but key finding number 3 says access is the choke point. Low attendance isn't about disinterest, it's about access. And most students haven't seen live theater in Belize, but say they'd go if transport and tickets were handled. Live theater exposure is low at 58.1% who have never seen a theater performance in Belize. That statistic might suggest apathy until we ask a follow-up question about access. If transport to Belize City and tickets were covered, then 87.1% said they would be likely or very likely to attend the National Theater. Nearly half, 48.4%, said very likely. In other words, student absence from theater is not disinterest, it is infrastructure. What specifically gets in the way then? The top barrier was I wasn't aware of shows, with 55.2% of respondents selecting it, followed by schedule time conflicts, then ticket costs, safety permissions, and finally transport to Belize City with a 24.1%. These are all solvable problems. Awareness is a communication task. Timing can be adjusted. Tickets and transport can be subsidized selectively. Safety permission concerns can be addressed through school partnerships and chaperone events. And the survey also shows that when students are most available, Saturday and after school windows receive the most support for workshops and rehearsals. Participation in history is thin, but participation intent is unlockable. The majority respondents had never acted on a show within the past year, but about a third had never. That matters for program design. A large share of students are beginners. Consistent with that, when asked if they would participate in a school community theater project, only 35.5% agreed outright. Many selected not sure, but not sure is not no. It typically reflects two realities. A, students have not been invited into a safe, beginner-friendly process, and B, logistics feels daunting. That same survey shows that when logistics are addressed and invitations are explicit, enthusiasm jumps. Half of respondents opted in to receiving information about workshops and shows, creating an immediate channel to convert curiosity into participation. So, why is this resonating in the Belizean context? For two main points. One, the relevance gap. The survey found students are far more engaged when literature is performed within Belizean accents and settings, mirroring the research that relevance and social modes reignite attention. And two, access and awareness. If live experiences or appealing texts aren't visible or logistically reachable, screens will win by default. Exactly the displacement the global studies describe. So, bringing performance to schools and curating Belizean texts directly addresses that. So, what should our policies and practices in Belize be? These are some ideas. Bring theater to students. Meet students where they are. Because theater is centralized in Belize City, bringing shorts theater residences to school across 4 districts would work. 4 to 6 weeks units that culminate in an in-school showcase. This would instantly resolve transport, time, and safety concerns while embedding performance inside the literature class. Second, lead with Belizean texts. Start off with Beka. Add scenes, monologues from Hyde, Ellis, Kelly to build a rotating local repertoire and increase relevance. Build awareness intentionally. Use school WhatsApp lists, bulletin boards, English departments for regular shows and workshop updates. You want to build teacher confidence. Short, practice centered CPD sessions on readers, theater, tableau, script adaptation, and low tech staging ensure that approach is sustainable beyond visiting artists. Teachers don't need a full stage to teach through performance. A classroom with movable desks, simple props, and a clear facilitation arc will do. And fifth, we evaluate lightly but consistently. We convert perceived gains into documented ones. 5-minute pre-post comprehension checks on a target scene, a short self-efficacy scale for public speaking, a teamwork rubric for group scene work. And over a term, these small measures add up to persuasive evidence and principles for principals and funders. So let's recap. What does the Belizean youth say? And how can we act? Textbooks, heavy status quo. Belizean lit classes lean on textbooks and close reading, which alienates students. 2. Theater is your bridge. Performance turns print into lived experiences. 3. Perception of impact. Respondents overwhelmingly view theater as an effective way to understanding literature. 4. Local content demand. Students want more Belizean text stage. Cultural relevance matters. And 5. The barriers equals logistics, not interests. Obstacles are awareness, timing, cost, and transports. So the blueprint is mobile, visiting theater, school-based performances, Belizean text firsts, and targeted fixes to those access hurdles. In conclusion, the survey's message is as practical as it is hopeful. Belizean students want literature that feels like theirs, and theater is a proven way to make that happen. 3 out of 4 students say that performance helps them understand literature better. Nearly 9 out of 10 say local accents performs helps them understand literature better. And local accents and settings increase relevance. Nearly 9 out of 10 would attend national theater performances if transport and tickets were covered. The barrier is not enthusiasm, it is access. The remedy is straightforward. take theater to schools, schedule when students can attend, subsidize occasional travel to Belize City, and center Belizean writers whose stories deserve the stage. The question we began with, is theater a worthwhile avenue to literature? Gets an evidence based answer from the Belizean youths themselves. Yes. Implemented with attention to logistics and local voice, theater doesn't just supplement literature instruction in Belize, it animates it, grows the creative pipeline, and gives students the confidence and skills to claim their own stories. Thank you.